Welcome back here on Live Now from Fox, 828 on the East Coast and 528 on the West Coast. Do want to get right back into your headlines here. ICE raids continue across the U.S., with President Donald Trump saying that he is specifically targeting criminals and people who are in the country illegally. ICE's daily arrests average about 311 during the final year of the Biden administration and stayed fairly steady for a few days after President Trump took office. However, the number of daily arrests spiked drastically to 956 on Sunday, and by Monday, that number was 1,179, marking the highest daily average since ICE ever started keeping records. The president also lifted longtime guidelines that restricted ICE from operating at, quote, sensitive locations like schools, churches, or hospitals. Newly sworn in Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem joined federal agents yesterday in New York City to announce arrests of criminal migrants. That included Anderson Zambrano Pacheco. He's accused of kidnapping, and investigators say he was seen in a viral video last summer breaking into an apartment in Aurora, Colorado, with some confirmed Tren de Aragua gang members. A lot to discuss. I do want to bring in Robert Almonte, a former U.S. Marshal for the Western District of Texas and retired deputy of the El Paso, Texas Police Department. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us here. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, first off, I want to go back to basics here. We've talked a lot over the past several weeks and months about Tren de Aragua, TDA. Can you explain exactly who they are, what they do, and what they're known for?
Yeah, sure. Tren de Aragua is an extremely dangerous gang that originated in Venezuela, actually in the state of Aragua in Venezuela, and that's where they get their name from. Tren means train, de means of or from, and Aragua is a state in Venezuela. In that state, there's an infamous, or was an infamous prison known as Tocoron Prison. Last September, authorities raided that prison. And unfortunately, the corrupt government of Venezuela alerted the several members of Tren de Aragua, including their leader, Niño Guerrero, and they were able to escape through some tunnels. This was really not a prison at all. It was basically a resort with a swimming pool, nightclub, tunnels, so they were able to escape. That gang has spread throughout different parts of the world, to include Chile, Peru, Ecuador, Colombia, and now into the United States. And they have, over the last few years, spread dramatically to many, many states in the United States. So they're an extremely an extremely dangerous gang involved in murders, kidnapping, human trafficking, sex trafficking, you name it, any way they can make some money. So I'm so happy to see what's going on today in our country. This should have happened a long time ago, and I thank President Trump and everybody involved in these operations.
And you mentioned the different states that Tren de Aragua has been seen in the U.S. Are you able to tell me what states those are? Are they kind of scattered throughout the U.S.? Are there specific states that they are located in?
Well, yeah, there's specific states, but this does not include all the states where they have a presence, because they move around a lot. But I can tell you, they were first drawn to the sanctuary states and cities, if you will, such as New York and Chicago and California. But we're not a sanctuary state here in Texas, but we even have them here in Texas. They're in Tennessee, Louisiana, Colorado for sure, a lot of different states, but they're drawn to the sanctuary states where they know they can roam freely and get involved in criminal activity and nothing will happen to them. For example, those Tren de Aragua gang members last year that assaulted two New York City police officers at Times Square. They were arrested, but within minutes they were released from jail, and then they headed to California. And when they were released from jail, one of the Tren de Aragua gang members basically flipped off the camera. And basically what he was doing was flipping off America, because he knew at that time that the way our country was, that he could get away with it and they were going to do it again.
What other criminal migrant gangs do exist in the U.S. that President Trump and his administration, ICE right now, might be targeting?
Well, there's several gangs, and the one at the top of the list is going to be the Mara Salvatrucha, known as the MS-13 gang from El Salvador. They're extremely dangerous as well, and they've been here for quite a while, and they have spread throughout the United States. The other thing, there are other gangs involved that are working with the Mexican cartel, and the Mexican cartels are on that list as well. The two most popular and powerful cartels that are operating in the United States are going to be the Sinaloa cartel and the New Generation cartel. And then, having said that, you have street gangs in the United States that are working with those cartels. And one of the most notorious gangs working with the cartel is known as the Sureño gang. They were based out of California, but they have spread out throughout the United States. All the way to the East Coast. There's several different gangs involved, not just Sureño, but they're one of the gangs at the top of the list working with the Mexican cartel.
There's a lot of information that's been floating around over the past week or so, especially on social media. As someone who has worked in this field, who has watched all of this kind of unfold, can you explain to me one maybe piece of misinformation that people out there might have that you want to clear up?
Yeah. Well, what everybody needs to understand, what America needs to understand, that is what is going on right now needed to happen. And it needed to happen because our border was not secure. And I've been saying on Fox News for several years now that our border was not secure and we were going to pay the price because a lot of the people coming across the border into our country were extremely dangerous criminals and terrorists as well. And sure enough, they entered into the United States and they committed some horrific crimes, committing murders, like in Riley in Georgia and many other cases. So a lot of people believe that it's not that bad or it wasn't that bad. It is bad. It could really bad. So unfortunately, the damage had already been done because of our border not being secure. And now we paid the price for that. We're paying the price for that. But this is exactly what needed to happen, and that's to round up all these extremely dangerous criminals, arrest them, and send them back to their countries.
As we look into this a little bit deeper, you are a former U.S. Marshal. We hear a lot about ICE, but I have to imagine that there's a lot of different agencies that are involved. We saw a post from Kristi Noem just yesterday where she thanked all of the different organizations there. So what other organizations are involved overall? Because there has to be kind of a communication, I imagine, between all of those different agencies as you go on these raids, so to speak.
Oh, yeah, definitely. This is a well-planned operation being carried out to the United States involving several different agencies, several different federal, state, and local agencies. And one of those agencies definitely is going to be the United States Marshal. And when I was a marshal, we were involved, and they still are involved in going after the worst of the worst. Fugitive task forces is what the United States Marshals have throughout the United States, consisting of state and local officers. And that's what they do on a full-time basis. So there's no doubt in my mind they are definitely involved in this operation. Another agency heavily involved is DEA. And I want to do a shout out to my good friend Derek Maltz, who just became the administrator for DEA. And he hit the ground running, and I knew he would. And his agents are involved in apprehending the extremely dangerous criminals and putting them in jail and hopefully sending them back to their countries.
And what I want to pop up for you right here are just some of the posts coming in from ICE. And these were posted just yesterday as they talked about some of the different arrests that they did make. They posted photos of some of those suspects, what they were arrested for. You have TDA, you also have MS-13. So what I wanted to ask you, again, as we look into all of this, there have been so many raids and roundups in the past week. Do you think ICE can keep up with the pace in the coming days, the coming months and years?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Because my hat goes off to ICE, but we need to remember that it's not just ICE that is involved in these operations. There's many different law enforcement agencies, the ones I just mentioned, for example. So basically, bottom line, this is a team effort, and and they're going to keep the pace up. There's no doubt about it. They're going to keep the pace up, and they have to keep the pace up. It's important that we stay on the heels of these dangerous criminals and not let them catch their breath. So this is not going to end. We're going to keep it going, and I'm really excited. This is a great thing for the United States, and all of this is going to make our country a much safer country, much safer place.
Robert, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here. Anything else you want to add before I let you go?
No, the only thing is that this is exciting. Don't listen to all the negative news. This needed to happen. It had to happen. And think about all the victims and the families of those victims that were brutally raped and murdered. This didn't have to happen. It did happen, and now we're doing something about it. So we need to keep it going. And the only other thing I would add is God bless America.
All right, Robert, thank you so much again for taking the time to join us and break it all down. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.